Okay. Okay. So before we start, I think could you briefly introduce yourself and your work in suicide prevention?
Sure. My name is Sachin Chitambaran. I'm associated with suicide prevention for over 13 years. That's been through my work with various suicide prevention helplines or hotlines, or one may even call them, emotional support, did I mention? Or suicide prevention helplines. So different ways it can be addressed. I started my journey back in 2007. I was in the UK doing my master's, and that is in hospitality, not psychology. It was during that time that I came across Samaritans UK. So I was looking to volunteer specifically in the space of listening, and I didn't know if such an organization even existed, to be honest. But Samaritans UK came into being, and over there, that's where I connected with suicide prevention even, and I understood that even though we are losing so many people to suicide, it is so easy to stop it as well, to help prevent it as well. And that's the I found it almost magical. And how easy the steps are to be a good listener is one of the first steps to it. And that itself was almost like a revelation, and I almost found my calling in it. So I did my 4 years of volunteering with two different centers in some Samaritans UK. I came back in 2013, and I've been associated with Samaritans Mumbai. I started off as a volunteer, but very soon I started with training as well with Samaritans Mumbai, which, by the way, started the helpline division back in 1993, but started its operations in 1968. So, and it's the first international branch of Samaritans UK as well. So there's some crazy stories there as well, which we are not really aware of, right? Nobody has really spoken about suicide prevention. Anyways, I digress. Currently, I'm also the Assistant Director of Training and Development with Samaritans Mumbai. In addition to this, which is when we say a suicide prevention helpline, it is essentially a confidential, anonymous, and non-judgmental helpline that it works 7 days a week, 4 p.m. to 10 p.m. India time, where people can call or even email if they're going through some stress, if they are despairing or even having suicidal thoughts. So they can reach out, no matter what level they may be in that journey as well. That is completely fine. They can reach out, and it will be confidential and anonymous. So that's the service they offer. In addition to this, I'm also the president of Befrienders India, which is the umbrella organization under which around 14 suicide helplines, just like Samaritans, report into. And Befrienders India then reports into Befrienders Worldwide, which is present in over 30 countries with I believe, over 25,000 volunteers as well. So this is part of a bigger chain, a bigger mission or drive that is going on as well. Now, while I was working with Samaritans and in turn with Befrienders as well, this was my voluntary work, right? So even in India, I had my corporate job, corporate life, and then on my weekends and any free time I had, I used to volunteer with Samaritans. However, 2 years back, I think with COVID, the way it struck, I think it helped me kind of set my priorities or with regards to the passion that I was. This was my passion project. I decided to kind of change my passion project into my day-to-day work as well. So that's where I started the Connect Hut, which focuses on which I have developed using my experience of 9 years. So for example, imagine in 9 years, I have taken about every training that I take is about 50 hours at least. And then I have taken like about 5 such trainings, which takes about a month and a half duration, almost 5 to 6 times a year for about 7-8 years. So the experience that I managed to collect during this time, that is what I've turned it into a training module itself as well. Along with the suicide gatekeeper training modules and things that we are offering. So we have, through Connect Hut, we started the first suicide helpline in Pakistan. We are supporting emotional support helpline in Bangladesh. We have started work in the Middle East now as well. And on top of, I think, hitting over 15, 20 educational institutions, NGOs, mental health organizations, corporates, and even men in uniform or women in uniform.
Mhm.
So we have tried in the past 2 years. I think we have quite a bit to we feel proud of as well. So yes, that's what my life has been with suicide prevention.
Yeah, and I think like working in the training of suicide prevention is again, just sort of amplifies the impact that you can create. And I know from our past conversations that you've always been very willing to support any sort of initiatives that are working in that field, as long as kuch kar rahe ho to अच्छे से करना. I think that's
Idea
been
deke
a
mat chale jana.
line.
Always look for people who are working rather than creating ideas and castles in the air, but no work is being done on the ground level. So that's, yeah, you hit the nail on the head.
Yeah. No, I think that's been, and I think for me, your support when we were setting up Mukta and just, this grounding that, make it happen was very important. So definitely.
Oh, thank you.
Okay.
I didn't realize.
Yeah, no, of course. I should say it more then.
Appreciate it, but I'm weird with compliments as well. But thank you so much. I appreciate. Glad to hear that.
Done. Done. Okay, so I think my first question to you is that in a lot of our conversations, and I think in your suicide prevention gatekeeper training as well, one of the phrases you use is just ask the question, and the question about do you have thoughts of suicide? But a lot of people are worried that this might end up planting these thoughts where they didn't exist before. So, what is your experience on that front, Ben?
Okay, so this is quite literally I'll blow the surprise. This is a myth. And I don't want to sound dismissive because this is such a common myth. And in my years, I've spoken to over thousands of people who have been suicide. Okay? In fact, I have asked this question with my family members, with people I have not met before in my life. And you know what? All the fear that okay, let me address it, right? It may be making it a small training session almost. Let's put it this way. Um, what do we think of suicidal ideation itself? Like किसी को मरना लगता है क्या, मरने का मन करता है क्या? Think about it. कि we think of suicidal ideation as जैसे चाय पीने का मन करता है, बारिश गिर रही है. If you're from Mumbai today, there is nice heavy rain going on outside. चाय और पकौड़े खाने का मन कर सकता है. So do you think that there is like a seasonal event like suicide आना मौसम है तो आज मरने का मन करेगा? Right, so there is a high level of myth surrounding this whole concept, right? And we talk about how baat karne se suicide, we hear about suicide in multiple different ways through different media outlets on a daily basis, but somehow we are narcissistic enough to believe that मेरे मुंह से निकला हुआ suicide शब्द से सामने वाले पे एक मंत्र उच्चारण जैसा असर करेगा, and it will turn them into a, like I tell a person, hey, have you been, you have been so distressed for so long, have you been having thoughts of dying? And the person is going to be like, bhai kya idea diya tune, right? Now I feel like dying. No, it doesn't work like that. So the idea, in fact, there is study after study that is being done. What happens is when a person is going through suicidal ideation, let me first tell you that suicidal ideation जो है या आत्महत्या के जो ख्याल है, many a time they are intrusive thoughts. They start off as intrusive thoughts. And intrusive thoughts का मतलब अगर हिंदी में बोले तो घुसपैठ विचार. That means these are thoughts that are not in of the person and end up attacking the person, right? However, and through the multiple things that are happening with the person, if their mental health situation is not well, if they are experience a lot of trauma in their past, if the biological, there is a linking, their temperament is seen to be a part as well, childhood adverse experiences. So multiple things go into it, and then there is a trigger event if there is one as well. So if all of these things have to go wrong, that's when a suicide happens. कोई ऐसे ही somebody doesn't get up and just kill themselves because my friend told me. No, it doesn't work that way. Suicide is multifactorial. What happens is the stigma is so high about suicide. To give you a direct comparison, think about Corona. At the start of the Corona pandemic, were we able to ask each other, "Tune Corona ka test kiya kya?" Corona didn't used to come out of our mouth. We used to be scared of saying the word. I want us to be able to remember this, right? But now think about it. Once we know what Corona is, we have taken our shots and everything. Does anyone mind? Do we worry? Because earlier, if you ask someone, "Tujhe Corona ka test kiya kya?" they would get upset. This is what the experience was, right? This is the same thing that we're portraying on suicidal ideation. Because we don't know anything about what suicidality is, we address it in this fear through stigma, through a lens of stigma, and we have decided that ये बोलने से मंत्र उच्चारण हो रहा है. Suicide, now I want to. No, it doesn't work that way. Many things have to go wrong. In fact, the person is, most often than not, what we see is the person struggles with these thoughts of self-destruction. And the part is, because the stigma is so high, they are not able to talk to anyone about it. Just like in COVID, so many people lost their lives because they couldn't reach out for help. Why? They felt that Corona was almost like a criminal activity. The same with suicidal ideation. I'm having suicidal thoughts. How do I tell someone that this is what I'm having? I'm having thoughts of killing myself. How do I tell someone without them calling me crazy or distract me or tell me how their life's problems are bigger than mine and whatnot comes in the picture? But instead, if you were able to ask, "Hey, have you been having those such thoughts?" What it gives the person is an opportunity to talk about this. Nobody is going to go home and be like, "Arey, mast idea diya." No. In fact, you asking the question helps the person say it out the first time, and that releases the pressure from the person to save a life. If you know, many of us have that savior complex as well. So if you're looking to save a life of anyone with suicidal ideation, it is not through violence. आप उनको झापड़ मार के या logic दे के नहीं ऐसे नहीं समझाना होता है. The point is that you have to show compassion and ask the question. If you know there is a suicidal ideation, then help them get help. Ideally a mental health professional or even their good friends. Let them talk it out. Let it come out, even their ideation. that is the most helpful thing, at least for a short duration. If that can be helpful. Sorry for that.
No. And I mean, like, more than asking the question, I think we're afraid to listen to the answer. Like, what if it's a yes, and what do you do next? And you feel like you mentioned, that the savior complex and just like this idea that, okay, whatever I say is going to determine or change the course of whatever this other person's life is going to be like.
Exactly, right? Like most of that fear comes from the part saying ki, I address this in my trainings as well, right? The question is, Sachin, but do we really need to ask this question? Right? So I'll ask you the question. So what's the worst thing that will happen if you ask this question? Right? If we are saying ki, no, it may plant the idea, we are telling you it has been rubbished. It has been researched. There's been multiple research being conducted. It has been rubbished. Any counselor, psychologist actually does ask this question as part of their initial history taking even, right? So that has been rubbish. Then what else could be the worst thing? No, wo gussa ho jayega. The person may get angry if I ask this question, right? Again, this is false. I mean, I've asked over 1,000 people. I've never seen actually a person get angry over this, right? What happens is, even if the person is angry, imagine the person now knows one person who I can talk to about this, right? Instead, let me ask the ulta question. What is the worst thing that can happen if you don't ask this question? You would never.
Either someone being angry at you or a life being lost. So,
and to be honest, right, Dhriti, and this is a question you can ask for other people as well. Think about it with some calm mind, right? Bring your near and dear ones. If you really have a good, your friends, family who you have good relationship with as well. Really think about it and bring to your mind, like, okay, I'm having this conversation with them and I ask them this question. Do you really see them getting angry? right? Or do you see that तुम्हारी दोस्ती टूट रही है, that your friendship is broken now, or your relationship is unrepairable now? Is that happening? I'll assure you the answer is no. The only thing is we don't know. That's the fear. The biggest fear, like you said, is what if the person says yes? उसने हाँ बोल दिया तो then I don't know what to do.
Yeah. And honestly, I mean, I feel like even though like no amount of time working in the field also fully prepares you to like, there's no best way to navigate the conversation that comes after. It's just, you being there with that person and figuring it out together.
Yeah, and in fact, you don't have to do anything to figure out. Let the person, are you able to hold the space for the person to kind of, if I have to kind of give an analogy, it's like, imagine if the person has to put out their thoughts, and these are very difficult and painful thoughts that they are pulling out and putting it out in front of. This requires a high level of vulnerability to even reach inside yourself to these painful parts, right? So imagine how much pain that is to reach into yourself to these painful parts, because they are hurting you, they're making you say things, they're making you do things, and they have to put these things out. If you are just able to give them that space to do this without worrying about being judged, without worrying about being misunderstood, or suddenly अरे इतना छोटा चीज के लिए, no, they are putting out their worst, and that they see in front of you, and you just dismiss it off, or just give them a very the first solution that came into your head. But instead, can you help them go through this process of putting everything out, help them stay with that and see how they are feeling about it? That is almost an art that is lost now, that hopefully that can change. But yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, like so many times survivors of suicide come and say that, this intention was hidden from them, or, I just didn't know. And I think, I mean, personally, I have the opinion that it's more likely that the intention wasn't recognized. What has been your experience on that?
See, I mean, with regards to if there are signs,
If there are signs, yeah, like how often does it happen that, a suicide just completely goes unnoticed? There's no warning signs at all.
see, can it happen? Sure. Should we use can it happen as an excuse that it never happens? That is wrong. Right? When we are seeing, again, this is through research that they have found out that over 80% of people who have attempted suicide give away warning signs. The idea is, you tell me that you don't know the warning signs, then we have to address that issue. But if you don't want to talk about suicide, how do we address the warning signs of suicide? Right? So what is happening is, when we do the trainings, when we do the suicide gatekeeper trainings, every time we get like, I have seen this, I have heard this. And what did we do? No, I mean, it was weird, but I was like, uska mood kharab hai shayad. I'm like, okay, are we understanding? Like, there are opportunities that have happened, but this is not to make you feel bad about this. I mean, not to make you feel guilty, because there was no source of information that was accessible to you. The general public I'm talking to about here, like, you don't have access to this good piece of information. All your information you're getting is from the news channels, media, who are not here in the business, unfortunately, of giving you correct information about suicide and mental health. That is not the priority. In fact, one of the recommendations for having better mental health is to stop watching news. Right? That is one of the things that get covered in trainings for better mental health. So, I mean, yeah, how do we address it? Be open about it and help people talk more about it.
And so many times, even a very obvious, I mean, it doesn't even have to be a warning sign, like someone just saying that I'm thinking of suicide, or I want to kill myself, and you just sort of attribute it to attention seeking, or like someone being dramatic. And I want to look at both the sides of this situation. First of all, like, how can you seek support in a way that someone's going to listen to you? And second of all, from the other side, that how do you ensure that you're not missing a cry for help?
So when you're asking, and this is something that we talk about as well, where if you're asking for help, also many a time people with suicidal ideation themselves are not good at asking for help. And this is, in fact, not just people with suicidal ideation isn't a brand of people. It is anyone amongst us. And what we have to see here for asking help, if we are able to check for the other person's time availability, if they have the mind space, and maybe helping them understand what type of help are you looking for.
Mm.
Now, many a times we go into a conversation seeking a solution or an advice or anything like that. But many when we are seeking emotional support, what we need to be able to do is unclutter or talk out our internal thoughts and feelings, right? And for that, what we need is a person who is not going to block things with solutions and suggestions. So you can put this as a request.
Yeah.
And this, in fact, may help the listener also feel less pressure because they don't have to come up with a solution. So you can let them know in advance that, hey, I just need to ventilate a bit. I may say some weird things. I may be cuss some people out. I may say bad words or say some crazy things. Don't mind that part, but just be there for me while I'm able to do that. Could you do that for me? And for that, the person will also need some emotional space, some mind space, some time. If the person is having an exam in half an hour, they may not be able to do this for you. So understanding that you put yourself in the position to ask for this help, but understand if the person is saying no to you, that does not mean that's the person rejecting you. The person is being honest with you about their time availability. So what we can check is, ki, hey, whenever you are free, could you be able to let me know? But try and make that appointment and get into the habit of ventilating and also helping others ventilate to you as well. So when someone is calling you, hey, I will not be giving any solution. Would that be okay? You want to just ventilate? So the listener can also ask this question. What are you seeking? You know, it seems like you seem to be quite bothered about it. So what are you seeking? What would you like me to do? Is it okay just for me to, would you like me to just sit and listen to you, whatever is coming out, and maybe just help you explore more? Or are you looking for suggestions or some solution? But then let's try to really understand the problem rather than break up hua kya karun, Tinder join kar. It's like, we have these linear solutions that come up. So how does one do that? So listener will need to understand that they are there to listen to the other person. So that priority, that perspective needs to move to the other person. And for the caller, for the speaker, I've told you already how they can help the listener be a better listener to them. Set your expectations and can be quite helpful. Any thoughts on that?
I think there's a lot that can be said here, but I like the bit about, someone who's asking for help also being clear about what they need, because quite honestly, like most of the times you can come up with your own solutions, or even though like the narrative always will
Most
be,
people do.
yeah, more of course, but the narrative will always be main kya karu, yeah, tell me what to do, but you're not actually looking for a solution. You
Exactly.
just
This is something that, I mean, when we train people to listen as well, this is one of the things we address. Like them asking you a question most often than not could be a rhetoric. That they're not really asking you, yaar, meri life to khatam ho gayi na. हाँ यार, लग रहा है khatam. That's not what the question is. There's no need for an answer all the time. So, and that you can only, these are nuances, right, of listening. These are things that you only can pick up. Okay, the person, this is a real question to me, this is sarcasm, this is whatever it is. And that comes with more practice and and some mindfulness.
Yeah. And I mean, even when I'm thinking about the training that we give our counselors, like you would imagine that the hardest part is, okay, how do you sort of go about collaborative solution seeking or something? But I think for us, the hardest part is getting someone to just, sit and give that active listening, provide that space, because the solutions bit is much easier. Like if you see a counselor on a call, the first thing they can do is come up with a list of solutions. But वो
Already they know
सुनना
when the person has entered, this person needs CBT. They have already decided. And the person hasn't even told them that all
Yeah.
they care about is, I just want to speak properly over a mic in front of 500 people. I mean, the point is exactly right, that if you only spend that 2 minutes extra to be listen to that person, you may be of so much better help to them, But
Yeah, and that should be seen as, providing support, matlab kafi baar after a call that's only about venting, a counselor is like, is that allowed? Like I didn't do anything, and they don't realize that that space itself is them doing their job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's surprising for a lot of people, like, because whenever they, for example, when they're coming to volunteer in a helpline or with our listening services or anything, the question is like, so Sachin, how do we help? And I'm like, what is your definition of help? What do you mean? What do you think is going to happen on the call that is going to be perceived as help?
Mm.
And right, and this is where most people think of listening as the tool that is there before help is to be provided. But in fact, they fail to see how listening itself can be so helpful.
Mm.
Many a times, the post things don't matter,
Mm.
right? Yes, if it's a disorder or something like that, definitely just having listening may not be helpful. You may need more advanced therapies and modalities and all. But yeah, it's magical.
Yeah, which I mean, I feel like we've already covered a part of it, but I'm gonna ask it anyway. That, when someone's thinking of dying, usually, they've tried things on their end, lot of different things, and nothing seems to help. And suicide feels like the only way out of this pain, endless pain. So, how can you go about building hope at that point?
So the idea is, it's not even about building hope, right? Your first response need to start thinking of seeking help. What you're essentially saying is, I'm drowning, but how do I get hope to come out of drowning? That time you need our skills and people to help you.
Mm.
So the first thing is to help the person, get the help seeking part in. You are depressed right now, for example, you are not finding the motivation to get up. Talk about it, seek help, rather than how do I continue to sit here and get hope from, I don't know what, divine intervention is required in that. So the first response needs to be that I need to be able to identify that this is not me. This is the sign of either my feelings going out of board, either my thoughts have been really negative towards myself. And I say negative as well, like very accusatory towards myself or the world or whatever. But being able to see that this is not necessarily me, I can get help even in this internal world.
Mm.
And that if I were to express these thoughts, if I were to talk about these things that I'm going through and all, it is not going to sound like an alien language. There are people who understand what you are talking about. Like, कि मुझे यहाँ पे दर्द हो रहा है, me showing my elbow and pointing, and if there is a boil over there, then people
Mm.
understand. But if there was no boil, nothing here,
Mm.
then you feel like a person is like, what is this nonsense? There's nothing there. So this is kind of what we're perceiving about mental health issues as well. If I'm not feeling the motivation to get up and it's been over 2 weeks or something, seek help. Talk to someone that I've not done this. But we feel like we are telling on ourselves. we are hiding our shame.
Mm.
So instead of talking about it, like, I haven't actually really done these things and I think I may need help. And that talking about this, it's not shameful. It is not to be seen as like, look at me how weak I am. But like, no, I need help. I take that help and continue living. you know
Mm. Yeah, and how would you say that for someone, let's say, that I want to support who is having thoughts of suicide but doesn't really feel like seeking help? So how would I go about
you
that?
have to you cannot you should not nag, let's put it that way. That becomes the first instance. But now I would like to go one step before this as well. See, again, all of these are quite complicated. My dad was complaining about how I go into different tangents, while because there's something that is connected to something
Mm.
else, right? So uh, imagine if you are supporting someone on a personal level, someone who's going through suicidal ideation. They've trusted you enough to tell you that, but now you are their secret keeper. Now this is a problem.
Mhm.
Okay. Now, one of the things, someone with suicidal ideation, there's a very high chance they will ask you for confidentiality. They will ask you to make a promise, don't tell anyone.
Mhm.
This needs to be something you need to be mindful of. It's very easy because you love the person, you have an emotional relationship with the person, to give that promise. Pakka, I won't tell you. Let me tell you some logistical issues with this. Imagine now it is 12 a.m. in the night, 1 a.m. in the night, and you've got a message from the person, I'm going now. अब क्या करोगे? Are you not going to call the family or cops or get help or anything? You're going to be like, yep. हाँ, और तू किसी को बता मत. Okay, done. There is a WhatsApp message now. You may think I'm laughing. I'm like, because you haven't thought this through, think about how much you're putting yourself into pressure there. Now, this isn't again to break anything. I'm saying understand that a lot you will be causing a lot more stress. Instead, communicate with the person. Be honest with the person that, hey, while I'm supporting you, I will also need help for myself. I'm not calling you a burden though, but for me to give you good help, I need to be in good health. And I may need to talk about this as well. But this is not to tattle about you or anything, but I need to keep myself healthy as well. But at the same time, I also want you to understand that we need help for you. I mean, just me is not good enough. It takes a village, right? So what you're saying is that, hey, you found the confidence, for example, you found the trust enough to talk to me. Can you think about anybody else that we can talk about, that you can bring into the fold? Is there anyone else? It doesn't matter wo niche tapri wala ho. If that person believes that person, they trust them enough to be vulnerable and talk, it's a good person to have in the mix. So you can help create a safety net for the person. So help encourage. Encourage is what you can do. Don't try not to make a promise. If you have made a promise like of confidentiality or of 24/7 availability, another promise we tend to make. To jab bhi kuch hua, mere ko call kar, I will come. I will. No, it is not a possible. That is humanly possible to maintain. And I've seen people burn out very quickly. Keep reasonable expectations. Do not sign off your life. It is not possible for you to be available 24/7. You have had a 20-hour shift. After that, you cannot listen to one person talking about the same issue that they're going through in a rumination for 2 hours. सो जाओगे आप, फिर क्या होगा? आप बुरे हो जाओगे. Don't do that. The idea will be how you need to take care of yourself. Don't look at the person as a time bomb. So first, reduce your anxiety about the person. The person has told you already their chances of survival is high because now they are at least have someone to vent this out, this poisonous gas out to. Idea is how you can increase their ventilation and encourage them. I need to see if you can't encourage them to get help, go to a mental health professional. Can you tell them I can come with you? Can you tell them can I help? Can I do some research and find some people? We can look through them together. Just help them come to that topic closer. If they need help talking to their family or something, because a lot of student population, they find it difficult to talk to their parents about this, right? There is that fear, but then they are not taking the help as well because the help costs money many a times. So do you need help talking to your parents about this? Maybe we can get our college professor into the conversation as well, that he may be or she may be able to have that word, and that may have a better impact with the parents and family members as well. So the idea is to look forward. Don't just see ki kuch nahi hoga, but pehle be prepared to be with the person. And it is okay if the person is also like kuch nahi ho raha hai, kuch nahi ho raha hai, it's okay. The person needs to vent it out. It's like that poisonous gas I'm talking about. Once they vent it out, there is some more release. The person can do something more. But then encourage and offer your help. Go with them. Help them if they can't. Can you sponsor 3 sessions with your friends? Whatever way you can find in that. So you don't have to feel stuck. I hope that helps.
No, absolutely, absolutely. And I think along with, since you were talking about professional help as well, I think there's a lot of obviously misconceptions around that as well. Okay, if I'm reaching out for help, that sort of increases the chances that, more people might come to know, and people fail to realize how strong confidentiality clauses are in any sort of mental health professionals.
But yeah, I mean, I'm saying even if you are not having a mental health professional, at least talk to a friend, at least talk to a family member, at least talk to a helpline where that you don't know the person, they're anonymous, they don't know your name, you won't know their name. Get it out of your system. Don't keep it in. That is right. So finding that, changing our mind instead of finding solution. Can I help? What can I help do right now to help myself find a solution? Right? And for that, first thing is ventilate. You're carrying a lot of weight, first release, put something on the side. वो कहीं नहीं जाने वाला है. Put it on the side. First, help yourself do this. And for that, you need friends or family or people. If those who think that I don't have any friends, start today. जिंदगी लंबी है. आज से शुरू करो. कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है. आज एक से बात शुरू करो. लाइफ में 2 जन भी मिल गए, बहुत हो गया. कट जाएगी, no problem. But you need at least those 1 or 2 people you can be vulnerable with. Vulnerable means जिसके सामने you can cry in front of them. You are not embarrassed in front of them. That you don't mind being yourself in your full glory.
Everything. Yeah.
I mean, I was trying to find some good words, but yeah, none were coming along. But in your whole glory, but in your most embarrassed, shameful, guilt-based, anger, whatever who you can be. But again, not to use that person as a punching bag. Like I am angry, and that's me is not an answer as well. So this is not to give a card to be abusive or mean to others.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. No, and I also want to like go back and highlight the bit about, taking care of yourself while you're trying to support someone else. Because, when you say that, let's say I'm going to be available 24/7, you're also putting that, like, you're hoping that this is like a time bound thing, that, this thoughts of suicide is going to go down in like one conversation with you, 2 conversations, and then that leads to frustration when that's not happening. And then it just becomes this cycle.
Yeah, because we expect that, oh, I'm going to talk to this person. The person is going to see the light and theek ho gaya. And but that's not the case. You speak tomorrow, guess what? There is another cloud. And you are like, Arey, but abhi to ek gaya cloud, dusra kahan se aaya? So this is our lack of understanding about mental health, how it works. Like if you are going through a tough time, you're going through a tough time. But it doesn't mean you're pagal or mental or anything like that. What you need are some good skills. What to do when I'm feeling this way. You know right now what to do when you have got fever. You know what you have to do when you have got cold. You know what you have to do when you have got a ankle pain or whatever. So what do you do when you feel low in motivation? What do you do when you feel a lot of anger? Understand the same mechanism, but you need to now know, okay, ये हुआ तो ये करना चाहिए. दादी माँ के नुस्खे, but for your mental health.
Yeah, and personalized.
Yeah, yeah.
Very personalized.
Yeah.
Yeah, and when you don't have those by yourself, like you can't, like you don't know, okay, when I'm feeling, let's say, low or angry, what helps me? Then you go to these generalized, okay, mindfulness or journaling or something, which might not necessarily work for you.
Yeah, but the point is, not doing anything is not helping anyone. See, if you hear some good option, try it out, sure, but give it your best shot and try it out. But like, will it work? And not trying is never going to work. So do be open to that, and that is why you will need help. That is why you will need to talk to people who know what they are doing, and professionals and things like that. And there are a lot of organizations now that do affordable, counseling or treatment or therapy, even free ones as well. So what to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Okay. So
any thoughts? Do you have a follow-up on it, or?
Yeah, I do. I'm not on this specifically, but I think, along the line of, when we say that suicide is preventable, and we know that, if we were more aware, let's say, of the warning signs or how to navigate these conversations, things wouldn't be the way they are today. So, but just to get the ball rolling on that, what is one thing that you wish more people knew about suicide?
That most of you would have suicidal ideation before you die at some point of time in life. So this isn't something that happens to somebody else. We have to stop lying to ourselves about that. So it is again, I will end up showing statistic and all of that. The simple question, simple thing being, know that your responsibility to your friends, family, and all of that that you tend to feel isn't just limited to physical safety. It is also about their mental health. If you know that there can be help and not using it is not good, right? So being more proactive about or being, I don't know, one thing. I can ramble, yeah, about this.
Yeah. No, I think this is good. I mean, of course, definitely. I was trying to shorten our suicide prevention training and it still ran into 50 pages. So I understand where you're coming from.
So it's so nuanced. Something okay, I would like them to know one thing that all the things that they know, suicide का cause जो पूछते हैं, why did someone die by suicide? This is the biggest question that कोई भी हो जाए. You can never have the answer. The causes of suicide are multifactorial. It is like अगर आपको लगता है किसी ने ब्रेकअप की वजह से सुसाइड किया है और एग्जाम में फेल हुआ और this thing or that thing, all of these things are just the last thing that you see. The minimum, when the study tells us minimum 3 things are needed for a person to be suicidal, and that's not 3 situations we are talking about. Yes, obviously a very difficult situation can have that level of frustration, but it cannot be directly attributed. There are multiple things that need to go wrong. बहुत सारे चीजों को बिगड़ना पड़ता है साथ में, तब जाके सुसाइड होता है, right? So instead of focusing or thinking about one thing का इसका क्या solution है, इसको पैसे दिला देता हूँ सब ठीक हो जाएगा, is not helpful. Then you are having a solution oriented mind rather than what does this person need and looking at that, so causes of suicide are multiple. If you want to know just one answer, the cause of suicide is pain. Just that. It's pain. And I hope that will help that discovery more, that question help them discover.
And I think media loves sensationalizing and putting it down to one thing. Like I remember there was this news article once about some 10th standard child who killed himself because his parents didn't get him a jacket or like.
Because they know exactly what is happening, right? I mean, I have questions for, like, we were as part of Connected, we did the event or creating hope through action, and in that we were addressing just this, the role of media as well, and we had Amrita joining us and giving her take on this as well. And that's the thing, right? Because they want things to sell, but is that information correct? Let me ask, like, for us or you, right? If do your parents know everything about you?
No.
Right? Like, if you are still in, I don't know if you live with your parents, right? But if you were living with your parents right now and you have lived with them for 40 years or 30 years or 20 years, I was not trying to guess age. But whatever amount, do you think they will know the whole you? Or there is a part that you are hiding from them as well? Yeah. Right? How are you having this confidence that you know your child fully? Right? So these stories that, and the person we have spent 30 years trying to know, apparently we don't know. But someone sitting somewhere in a different city completely knows exactly why someone died in this house. Right? The assumptions that are needed to reach this conclusion is just atrocious. Right? So WHO guidelines on suicide reporting is very clear. You should not sensationalize suicide. What does sensationalize suicide mean? That you do not make it a news headline news or front page news and making it the biggest thing and sensational, and then saying that creating a narration around it that देखो exams के लिए बच्चों के पास कोई चारा नहीं बचा but suicide करे. What you're giving is a voice to that emotional perturbation that the child is experiencing. This is the direction for that. So if you need to prove that you are undergoing stress, you need to do this. राइट? वी ग्लैमराइज सुसाइड. एक दूजे के लिए मूवी रिलीज हुआ, जिस साल रिलीज हुआ उस साल 47 कपल्स ने सुसाइड किया. 47 couples died by suicide the year Ek Duje Ke Liye was released by jumping off the cliff, because that was shown in the movie. And what is the message we are getting? Ki if your society is not helping you become lovers, you're not Ramesh and Sonia. You can become Romeo and Juliet. What do you have to do? Just jump from here, right? So what you're essentially doing is training people how to kill themselves and giving them a very logical and apparently emotional logical reason to do it, to make it true. So we sensationalize, we glamorize, we give a reason why, we tell them how to do it, right? ये इतना लंबा रस्सी खरीदना पड़ा, ऐसा गांठ बांधते हैं. This is the type of conversation we are having. You know, it is literally like you're teaching or training a person how to kill themselves. And it's the most irresponsible form of reporting. So WHO guidelines are quite clear about it, and the contagion or suicide copycat hote hain, not a myth, and media needs to understand their responsibility in good reporting, because nobody is attributing any situation to them, but they do have a lot of death on their plate as well.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. I mean, when you have statues like 20 feet tall statues, why is that still a question? But yeah. Yeah, I think that's about it from my end. This has obviously been very helpful and very, I think, like I have high hopes for this. So let's see.
So what?
I mean, just how this does, I hope it reaches more people.
Well,
And
I hope it was informative and helpful. But yeah.
Yeah. And when is the next QPR trainings happening? Is that something I can link in here?
Sure, we are actually planning one on 17th, I believe. It's a full day training. It is not just QPR. We are even doing, what we are seeing is, even with QPR now, QPR is more of an American style training, which is step 1, step 2, step 3, right? और हमारे इंडियंस को हमें समझना रहता है कि ये बट ये स्टेप 1 क्यों है, स्टेप 1 गलत हुआ तो, and so we have basics of suicidality as well. So we are doing a full day training on 17th. So maybe that can be plugged in. I can share the details of that.
Yeah. So you can let me know how you want me to put this up, because if you want me to link in the details, maybe put up like a collaborative post or tag, Connect Heart or anything like that, I'd be happy to do that.
Certainly. I mean, our social media team can also help it.
Done.
Oh,
sounds good.
Awesome. How are you feeling? I mean, there's quite a bit of information. Some of it can be heavy as well. How was this conversation for you?
This conversation was been a part of a lot of these conversations, so it's all right. But yeah, I think a lot of the things that I would have liked to cover were covered, so I'm happy about that.
Wonderful. So thank you, Dhriti, as well, for having me. It was an absolute pleasure talking about suicide and mental health with you, and I hope we can collaborate more in the future.
Same.
Ciao.
See you. Bye.
Bye.